Hello, everyone, and welcome to the StreamYard and LinkedIn Live about holographic societies. We're enabling holographic societies at scale. And again, thank you for visiting or watching this live, as well as to the ones that might be watching this afterwards. I wrote a lot of stuff or we wrote a lot of stuff, information in the post about all this, network design, the 5G, 6G aspects that need to be there possibly to enable holographic societies, and what everything about that, what that means in the future that could be here in the next 5, 10 years, maybe 15 years. I remember talking to someone that is an IoT expert, said like, whenever, all the time when he hears about 6G, he takes a shot, right? So um, 6G, 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 6G. I'm just making it easier for him to use this on a Friday night. But that said, I can talk a lot about the whole explainable AI situation that needs to happen as well, which again has to be enabled possibly by digital twinning at scale, the whole network slicing aspects, and a lot of the stuff with the telco related aspects, which are really interesting. But at the same time, this might get a little bit personal here because I want to also try to explain it in a way that I did for my team earlier this week. So my grandma, I've talked about her quite a lot. She's 105 years old, and she doesn't have that much time left. And something happened this week, so it's even it's getting there, so to say. And I would love to there's some scene in one of the Marvel movies. I think it's Avengers. I don't know which one it is. Where Tony Stark, he's created like this hologram, situation. He's on this, he's speaking in front of MIT students or whatever that might be in the U.S. And he's showing a living room when he was growing up. I suppose when he was 15, 16, and he was talking to his parents before they got in a car crash. And for me, I've thought about that, even before that. I've always been thinking that, when someone dies, what do we do with that? And I mean, the emptiness that they leave, is there a way to sort of record reality when they were here? Or to, again, the famous Rutger Hauer quote, it's like tears in the rain, these memories get lost in time. So this was a little bit deep. Sorry for that, possibly. But again, what these holographic societies will mean is that it's a foundation or it's a fundamental shift in how we interact with both with each other, but also across space and time. Because we could, if we have stills of something that happened years ago, we want to place that basically anywhere on the planet. We want to engage with that. In we have the I don't know, something in Gettysburg, I think in the U.S., or like whatever, any famous war in action, you can actually have that displayed not only where it happened, but also of course anywhere on the planet. And you can be anywhere and everywhere at the same time. So if you're shopping with someone, you can actually they can be on the other side of the planet, but they can also see, and you can hold up your shirt, you can try it on yourself, and they can actually participate in your reality wherever you are. And you can walk on that beach, and you can be surrounded by Cohen Cuss, who's one of the foremost pharmaceutical healthcare experts in the world, that I have the pleasure of participating in with the Digital Twin Consortium in the healthcare group. I can be working with him, but he's on the other side of the planet, maybe in his VR setup, and but I'm here in the real world, and mixing reality as we speak. But for this to happen, we need edge compute. We need much more, less latency between the different interactions and the mediums in a smart city. Because right now, when you're outside walking with your phone, and maybe you have like a video conference call, and sometimes you lose. I mean, you lose what you call bandwidth, right? There's not enough coverage, and you don't necessarily know how to plan for this coverage. All this kind of stuff. So we need much more denser understanding of everything, and we need lower latency, and we need better planned infrastructure. That is that V to X, X to V, all this kind of stuff in a smart city where everything is connected, everything is talking to each other, and everything has a, let's say, an identity. That might be the case. But so how do we get there, and what does this mean? So again, for me, going back to my grandma, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to pick up a scanner. I'm going to scan her apartment, and then using the EDX platform, You could also use other platforms, I suppose. I just want to, host her apartment so that, when my kids, because they're 5 and 8 years old, and they're not going to remember too much of my grandma, I suppose. Of course, I have videos, I have pictures, and have all of this kind of stuff. But I just want to, when they grow up, let's say in 5 to 10 years, when VR, AR, all this kind of stuff becomes mainstream, just maybe I just go to her apartment from time to time, watch a movie. Maybe I can just sit there and invite my kids there. I just tell them everything. I placed all my photos, my videos that I've taken over the years, and just placed them either inside of her apartment, and the stuff I recorded her, I think, like a couple of times at least, when she was going through sort of like the photo albums, right? So I can have her narrate the photo album so that I know when I'm flipping through the photo album in her digital apartment, either, displayed in our apartment or just in virtual reality or in augmented reality or mixed reality. It doesn't really matter, but just the ability to sort of record reality as we have it right now, and for them to understand, more of the context, where did she live? And even possibly, which I think is pretty interesting, when she talks about these memories, right? Because I have a lot of course, stories when she was with her sister, and they were yelling, um, outside the fire, what call it, the fire department, the building, right? It's like, when are they coming? When are they gonna come, right? When are they gonna go out? And this guy said, yeah, wait a minute, wait a minute. And she might have been like 15 or 16, just wanted to see like the fireman, rushing outside in to help people. And you could just sort of, you can enable a whole creator economy, whether that is the metaverse or something else, to sort of make her those memories come to life, and actually trigger that contextually or geospatially, so that when someone might happen to be there at the fire department, they could possibly unlock a hologram of her, and her talking about this, because of course you put some AI to it, and it's not just me or someone else talking about it. It's actually her talking about it at that point, reenacting that something that happened almost like 90 years ago. So I think like the holographic societies aspects are really, really interesting from a lot of different perspectives. And again, I think what Cohen is writing here, what he's thinking about, or what I'm thinking about, is telemedicine, how that affects everything as well. And you can have your doctor. I mean, there's so many different things that could happen when we have holographic societies, and but I think like the one of the more interesting stuff, or interesting aspects, sorry, are the fact, how do we get there, right? How do we move to where we are right now, where sometimes we barely got 3G, 4G, 5G coverage, and again 1 billion people are not necessarily that connected, not access to water, and how can holographic societies help? And I think this is again one of my, I talked about this early in the week as well. This is borderline gamification strategies, but if we can, you know I think like everything is about how close we are to something. And again, most people are, of course, they judge the world from where they are in the world, right? But ever since Skype was introduced, I realized, okay, now I can immediately, and of course this is the same with the phone, but video conferencing is at least a little bit different. Now I can interact with anyone on the entire planet. That's sort of also how my ambition was, still is, to solve all the problems in the world to some extent, then definitely operate in all countries in the world, because it's possible. We can, on a daily basis, I interact with people from most of all continents. And what this has to do with holographic societies, I think, is just bring some different degree of closeness to other people, hopefully. Because again, you're seeing me now, whether this is, in real time, Cohen is here, or you're doing this, afterwards, it's still, 2D flat. But maybe I could, if you would like me to, be there with you in some way, shape, or form, as a hologram, talking about these kind of things, interacting with you in a different way that might, be more personal. And then at the same time, the gig economy with holographic societies will, emerge for real, will be that, you could be in a bar, you have your smart glasses. So again, we have to, scale this back again. We have, of course, smart glasses on us where we can enable this kind of stuff. So now I'm holding up my phone, but if that would be the case, I wouldn't necessarily have to do that. Maybe I'll just have a drone that circulates, around me all the time. But when I have my smart glasses, and then someone, I might just want to have a drink with someone. I'm at a real bar, but I'm alone. But I'm talking to someone on the other side of the planet, not just like an AI bot, but actually someone that works as a maybe they want to go to the bar. Maybe that's your friend that is not necessarily there, but they're at another bar, and you just want to converse, like, not sitting with the phone, but you just want to talk to each other. So all this kind of stuff with immediate closeness, wherever you are on the planet, will of course happen. And again, how do we get there? I think the metaverse is a really, really cool stepping stone. I know that there is a lot of people, possibly, definitely in my network, things like the metaverse. It's shit. Why the hell would you buy like a virtual building somewhere? It's insanity. Let's go back to buildings and all this kind of stuff, right? And I think it's again, it's never like an either or. It's always like definitely a transition phase, and that transition phase will most likely happen much, much, much faster than people will believe. So with that said, holographic societies, will have a lot of impact, obviously, on everything, how we, interact with everything. Again, like, in the podcast that I did 1 year ago with Greg Damshak at Bentley Systems, we said, I'm sorry, I had to hack you. I'm sorry, I had to hack your eyes, right? Because again, the security measures that we need to enforce, on the edge in the smart glasses are, extreme. Because let's say someone hacks into my feed and alters it so that I'm not seeing any cars, and then I just step out into, the what do you call it, the street, and then, a car hits me. That wouldn't be as much fun as you would like to think, right? And at the same time, maybe that's, that will be the possibilities, that I have, the possibility to modify my reality in real time to my will. When I'm outside walking in the city, I can, all the trees, they're too green. I just want to, dim it down a little bit. Maybe again, what I said before, and I don't know why I'm always saying this, but maybe, sorry, I'm getting a lot of notifications here. Maybe I want to, display all the people as cookie monsters, or maybe I just want to blur it out when, people are showing up in my feed, which is basically, my visual feed, which is, what I watch at any given point in time. And then again, for the more, not just cool stuff, but again, for the ones that might need some aid in the city, again, just doing all this kind of stuff in real time, that has, really, really, extreme possibilities of helping people in their everyday life. And I think that again, but that requires ultra low latency, which probably means that, all the different actors in a network, so let's say like the cars and everything that is moving around, including people to some extent, will have to be connected, not just, to the cloud, but also to each other. So there are, of course, a lot of different companies that are working on this. And again, when we're doing this stuff, and Cohen is, putting stuff in here, we also, have to talk about, pun intended, human dialogue interactions. So again, we're not going to, pick up our phone and type stuff in. For the most part, we'll probably just speak, right? I wish I could do this. Can you alter this? What would happen if we can do this and this and this? Again, what I've said before with the 60 simulation engines, that we want to build up a digital twin, so a visual and virtual representation of something that exists in reality, fed with real-time data or fed with real-time information. And again, for me, that has to be understandable for people of any creed, race, wherever they are in the world, and almost at every age, to understand, what happens. So again, we have to have high fidelity digital twinning, where I suppose like the two biggest companies when it does to with game engines are Unreal Engine and Unity. They're doing fantastic stuff. So once we have the digital twin, I think this is also, again, why people are not necessarily seeing the benefits with the metaverse, because the metaverse for me, just doing gaming and all this kind of stuff is fun and cool, but it doesn't necessarily bring any real value to the world, right? We have a lot of different things that we need to take care of in terms of planetary crisis, extreme climate, and all this kind of stuff. And we possibly would like to make the best decisions that we can make, and possibly on the first try. right? Because time is actually running out. I believe that. Maybe you don't, but I definitely believe that, and I think we can do much better for the planet as a whole. So let's say then, for EDX purposes, we already have, our own Google Earth. We have a digital twin that is up to date with satellite information. We already, have a marketplace where people can bring their own content from wherever they are on the planet to feed that into an up-to-date, again, global digital twin. And I think like that on its own is fun. But again, Internet of Things for me is dead. It's the impact of things that is important. How we move from data to information, from information to insight, from insight to action, and action to impact, and actually start with impact. How do we reach a net zero something in this area? How do we create, a fantastic dynamic urban environment for everyone that is here? Well, let's feed it with everyone that actually are here. And what are the demands, and how do we generate through possibly parametric design, generative design, agent-based models, multi-agent system, whatever that might be, and ask the digital twin, right? How can we ask the digital twin, to show us, how to get to the impact we need? Okay, basically mirror on the wall. And again, this holographic societies is pretty interesting because, and I think it's really tied to the metaverse, because if you look at it in different stages. So I have a whole, webinar talking about this stuff. So if you're interested, just to put a like in a comment if you want to see that, about, how digital twins are tied to the metaverse. But again, if you have then a digital representation that is fed with real-time data, of the planet, right? That becomes, what I like to call infinite Earth strategies. So let's say you create something in a copy of the world, right? Maybe you want to see like, okay, what happens if, we planted trees here? Instantaneously, that will generate like fork out infinite Earth strategy to, this is different from the real world. Maybe we can, take all the arborists or whatever they called that love, working with trees, or that has as a job at least. And, we create a metaverse just for arborists where they can, discuss these things, maybe find some new ways, and then boom, that, gets distributed all across the world. And, the cool thing is, if you would also do this again with holographic societies, if you have that at scale, what you're creating in a metaverse, that is being, the origin is the reality, you can take that metaverse, the metaverse aspect, and apply that instantaneously to, again, through holographic societies to that part of the world through augmented reality. And how we can consume that is important, because holographic societies, we could possibly enable that right now depending on how we see it, but not really holograms, right? We're not really there yet, because that requires different edge compute, volumetric, something voxels in basically everywhere, all this kind of stuff. And that was a little bit too much buzzword bingo possibly. But the thing is, if you look also at I'm just seeing what Dr. Cohen Cass was writing here, is that it's not just one technology that has to converge here. It's just everything. It's the buzzword bingo that will be the foundation of everything in the future. And once that is the foundation, there's going to be something else. It's 7G, 8G, whatever that might mean, right? So I think like right now, the whole spiel is, use the most modern technologies possibly. Doesn't necessarily have to be the cutting edge, depending on, it's a balancing act between the most research. But if we don't use the technology and lay that as a foundation for the future, I think we're forever going to be stuck in the past. I've said this before, because the way, again, if we go back to my grandma, and in 10 years, I can either, show them flat, photo albums or whatever that might mean, but that's just such a big leap from how they will engage with information, how they will consume information, how they will collaborate with others. So if we don't take it, if we don't do it now, I can't go back in time in 10 years, possibly, right? To create a digital twin of her apartment. Or maybe I can take all the different photos, and maybe an AI can stitch that together and to create the digital bubble. And maybe that's, maybe I don't have to worry as much. Maybe that's the case, right? But the point being is that if we don't, if we don't think about virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, artificial intelligence, and how to build solutions and projects around this, then we're not going to make it, right? I mean, I see that all the time. What's it, this Maxar Engage conference, which was fantastic. All these different players, they were talking about digital twins, and we're going to create the new standard. We're going to create an omnipotent standard. And that, my friends, might be sort of like the final word here. Like, open APIs are great, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have the ability to converse with other both people as well as other systems. And one standard to rule them all, we already have it, right? If you look at biomimicry as a topic, if you look at reality as the standard and how we engage across the planet, that's what we should use. So maybe off topic, maybe this was more of a rant than anything else, but I definitely believe that the digital twins, and it's not just one digital twin. I think that's also a misconception. It's interoperable, composable digital twins from multiple areas that need to work together. And again, I think what we're staring at there is also, we're going to come up with one standard to rule them all, but we haven't really, been able to use standards in all the different domains. So I think that's an impossible task. And even if it's possible, it's probably going to take some time, and time is something that we don't have. So just to summarize, if that is even possible, we have to build stuff with the future in mind. Of course, we have to use standards and technologies, or standards in one domain to understand how to leverage them. But we also have to realize that it's a lot of fragments out there, and we need to be really, really good at stitching them together. And for that, usually you use taxonomies and ontologies that can stitch these different domains together. And I think that is again, combined with graph, compute, edge stuff, everything that is happening. I think like we have all the right tools to get there. And where holographic societies, that's the problem for me, because I've been thinking about this for quite some time. So that whenever I'm in a city and I drive into, like when I was Barcelona, I was at the 24th floor or something, I look at that city, I don't see anything. I mean, I see the city, but I don't see like augmented reality, pop-ups are showing me whatever I'm interested in, right? In a personalized city, I would love to see this. I would like to engage with people. So like, Blade Runner and all this kind of stuff in a different way, because, that would bring a different level to it, of course. And again, with the edX platform, we have the possibility to, what I call it, distribute content to everyone and anyone on the planet. So that if I could, write, I can draw up a screen here of any size, and someone could send a video to me, right? I don't need to hold up my phone. I can just, tap into that, right? I could just see it appear in my field of vision, and all this stuff is possible today. Of course, limited by the network coverage, by not having, ubiquitous, again, network coverage and very low, ultra low latency, which is again what's going to happen. So yeah, this was impossible to summarize. I love this stuff a lot. And again, what Mark Tobel, a friend of mine, when a 5G, 6G expert said, the 2G and the even Gs, so to say, they're when it really, really happens, right? That's when it's more mainstream, and it's the plateau of enlightenment, or whatever that is from the Gartner buzzword bingo side. But the 3G, as well as the 5, that's experimental. It's not really ubiquitous yet. It's a lot of resiliency needed, and that's where everyone is trying, right? And again, the main difference with 5G and the Gs before it is that 5G is the first one that is more made for machines and not necessarily people. So we're trying still. We're trying a lot, and I think again, if you look through my post, there's a lot of different factors, and even more so that I written down by reading these research papers about 6G and how to enable Hi-fi Holographic Societies, what that will do for autonomous car, they can interact, all this kind of stuff. Anyway, so I can talk about this a lot. If you want to know more about this, if you have any specific questions, please reach out. And again, all these things that Cohen was writing here in the chat with VR, AR, AI, 5G, 6G, NFT enablement, we're doing that, right? We're doing that today because it's just tools, technologies. And again, if we want to survive in this technology realm that we're it's moving faster every day, we can't use all the tools of the past. It's impossible to reach the future if you just anchored everything in the past. So we have to take some risks, obviously calculated risks. We have to be a balancing act between the ones that are most researched as well as the cutting edge. and engage with subject matter experts to figure this stuff out faster. This has taken me, of course, 10 years to figure out all this stuff out. And I don't know everything, but I know quite a lot on who to point to. So if you have any questions whatsoever about anything regarding the past, the present, and the future, feel free to reach out. And Robert is also saying something here. Sorry about that. I tried to close this, but it wasn't possible. Yeah, it's integral as a catalyst for market transformation, definitely, because if you again, I saw some post this morning. They have a successful, I think, like digital twin, at least lab at scale in Australia. I think they put in $37.6 million. I don't know if it was USD or Australian dollars, but over the last couple of years to create a digital replica of Victoria, right? And again, like they say, like we can use it for anything, right? And again, like but it's the one point that is getting missed a lot is that this is not just one digital twin. It consists of multiple digital twins that has to be able to work together, and it's the simulation capabilities based on or on an emulated reality that are really, really important. So I think that's also why what Robert is saying here, that if we again first we ask the digital twin, right, where should we build these schools, and it plots out 5 different locations, and you say, okay, we're gonna place them here, and the people in the city, they get to see this beforehand, right? It's they get to see the buildings beforehand, where they're gonna be built, and maybe they can participate, enforce that, okay, maybe it's just gonna be a gray slab of concrete because their individual frame of reference, or like the what do you call it, the facade would be individually tailored to whatever the user wants to see in a sort of like holographic society, right? So maybe everything is going to be boring without the glasses. With the glasses, you can do whatever you want. Don't necessarily have to participate in the real world. You can just be in the metaverse if that is fun and games, which it probably might be. But anyway, so I digress quite a lot, and I gotta go because I gotta buy the scanner so I can scan my grandma's apartment. But definitely being able to show people what their future will look like in a way that they can understand and agree to that, and also having AI underpinning that with calculating what the best options are in terms of a sustainability perspective, reducing risk, all this kind of stuff. I think that's it's not a if, it's just a when, and hopefully more people would get on this train. We're trying our best to create these use cases, make it easy to understand. This might not have been that easy to understand, but make it easy to understand, and that requires something visual. So hopefully soon, I might be in your I don't know, living room, but in your office, talking about this stuff in front of people, streamed down to holographic places anywhere on the planet at any given point in time, talking or speaking not just to millions and billions, but actually with, right? So I think like the possibilities of the future is just that it's just too bad that we don't have it all right now. I think we have the future is already here, but what do you call it, unevenly distributed. And even if that is the case, the problem is not just how it's distributed, how it's leveraged. How can people actually adopt the tools and technologies that are going to build the future? Do they have the understanding to use the right tools at the right time in the right order? I don't think so. But that's again, I think what I'm working really, really hard at is to create these recipes. We know that the ingredients exist, but just the recipes for change, to get this stuff done much, much faster, much, much better, where we can hopefully live and thrive as a species together with also all the animals and every plant, and just have a great planet, and then we can choose whatever planet we want to live on, in the metaverse or in the real one. And then if we come up with some fantastic stuff in one of different earths that we know someone has created, we can actually apply that to the real world, see if that would work, and then move on from there, right? So this has been a little bit of everything. I hope it was interesting, and have a great day, night, whatever it is when you watch this. And again, just reach out to me if you have any thoughts or comments about anything. And thank you, Cohen and Robert, for commenting. I hope it was somewhat insightful, or at least maybe eye-opening at least. Thank you so much, and take care.